We are all on a voyage of life, traveling the cosmos. For now, our soul's boat is sailing the waters of Earth. Where do we go from here, and how do we get there?
Next on Arcanum, we will see how our soul is indeed an enchanted boat.
To the ancient Egyptians, the Nile was the river of life. And look at this incredible NASA image, the God's eye view of the Nile at night. We see it snaking its way up to the Mediterranean, fanning out in the city of Alexandria, right there on the Mediterranean coast. The Earthly Nile was thought of as a mirror image of the heavenly Nile, the Milky Way. The Milky Way galaxy, or the winding waterway, as the ancient Egyptians referred to it. The Nile also symbolized the afterlife, and the ancient Egyptians believed that just souls, or righteous souls, came to reside in the celestial Nile as a star being. The entire religion and the culture of ancient Egypt was all predicated on the idea that the human body could be transformed into a star or a star being. If the soul passed all the tests that it would encounter in what was called the Duat, or the netherworld, then it would become one with Osiris or Sokar, lord of this Duat, and live forever in the night sky as a bright star. This is one of my favorite images I've ever taken in Egypt on my tours there, where we see the star walker holding in one hand the staff of Arcanum and the star in the other, having become a successful soul, a resurrected soul, a star being, or a star walker. Here's spell 110 of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which describes the afterlife and details the geography of the afterlife. We see several tiers here of the winding waterway, the Milky Way, and we see the soul journeying upon the celestial waters. The sky was traversed by water, and the deceased traveled by boat. And this is exactly what we see in the lower register, are the sky boats, or the star boats. Look at this. We have a dual-headed serpent ship rising out of the winding waterway, the Milky Way, and we see the ladder or stairway to heaven attached to it. This is a cartoon, and the way I read this cartoon is that this dual-headed serpent ship is the stairway to heaven. Here we see Osiris on his ship of eternity. Osiris is now the jed pillar or column, perhaps the mast of the ship, who is cloaked in his bright white garment of light as an afterlife being. But in my view, the most profound examples of the celestial boats, or the star boats, are to be found at Hathor's Temple of Love and Joy at Dendera. Taken many people on tours to this magnificent temple, and always we enter this temple with great anticipation of what we're going to see when we walk inside. As we enter this magnificent temple, we're entering the realm of Hathor, the goddess of love and joy, who is also symbolized by the cow. The maternal waters of the Milky Way, the heavens, were comparable to a mother's milk in the ancient Egyptian symbolism. Thus comes the cow symbolism for Hathor. As a celestial cow, Hathor is portrayed with stars on her body. Holy cow is the expression, right? Egypt revered Mother Hathor as the holy heavenly cow whose udder produced the Milky Way and whose body was the stars. So when we look at an image such as this, we're actually seeing an image of the Milky Way. Here we see the great royal wife, Nefertari, with Hathor as a cow on the bark, or Ark of the Millions of Years, as it's also called, amidst the reeds, in a magnificent scene from the temple at Abu Simbel. I call Dendera Stargate Dendera. Dendera was actually constructed so that the light of the helical rising of Sirius would travel down the main corridor to place its red glow upon the altar in the inner sanctum of the temple. when that light reached the altar, the beam of light from Sirius was transformed into the star goddess Isis. And in this way, the temple steps down the frequency or the vibration of our companion star, Sirius. But it's on the ceiling where we find the most amazing aspects of this temple. Look at this incredible view as we look up into the ceiling here. And we see a group of gods, 14 of them actually, ascending a gently ascending stairway until they meet the god of Arcanum, Thoth, who is standing in front of his mirror. Incredible. So here are the gods ascending this stairway until they reach the mirror of Thoth, who is there guiding them and asking them or inviting them into the afterlife realm. But what we want to see here is Thoth on his celestial boat. We see the pharaoh standing before Thoth, his rod of Arcanum in hand, and Thoth is offering to him the eye of perfection, the Ujat. And what this indicates is that this pharaoh has accomplished the transformation from a human into a celestial or a star being, and is now riding upon the ship of eternity. Thoth also rides upon the ship of eternity, which is called the Ark of the Millions of Years, or the Bark of Eternity. Powerful names, don't you think? Enchanting names. The Book of the Amduat, or what is called the Book of What is in the Netherworld, records Ra's night sea journey on his Ark of Eternity as he crosses the underworld in his boat. Again, it's shaped like a wormhole. He has the key of life on his knee, and he prepares to sail into this gate of stars that I prefer to call a stargate. The shape, again, of Ra's ship matches a modern wormhole. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think these gods actually sailed the stars as eternal light beings on wormholes. Interestingly, this 4,500-year-old solar boat of the pharaoh was discovered in 1954, buried in a sealed pit at the foot of the Great Pyramids of Giza. You can visit it today. It's extraordinary, and it's in incredible, pristine shape, even after all this time. And what we notice is that this ship is precisely shaped like a wormhole. The boat of the millions of years is here seen on the tomb of Seti I in the Valley of the Kings in Egypt, and a serpent now rides upon the ship. Now that's a very interesting bit of symbolism, because the serpent symbolizes immortality, the shedding of the skin. It also symbolizes a vibration. Think of a serpent or sine wave. Switching over to ancient Samaria and Babylon, what do we find but the sun god Shamash on his throne riding upon his serpent ship? And look at the demarcations on this serpent ship, which, by the way, has the torso of a human and the head of a human. We see these notches on the serpent ship here, and to me, that indicates spiraling. Again, connecting us to the idea of vibration, but also the opening of a portal or a vortex. Enki, the great creator god of the Anunnaki tradition in ancient Samaria, travels in the boat to the afterworld or the afterlife or the underworld. So here we see the Anunnaki gods, or priests rather, on either side of the radiant tree of life, with the sun god Shamash above in his winged or radiant craft, even beaming energy to this radiant tree of life. Christianity claims that the boat or ship is a symbol for the Immaculate Conception, and the Virgin Mary's womb, the vessel that brought Jesus to the human world, to the earth plane. And again, in the Gnostic view, Jesus is a celestial or star being who manifested on the earth plane. And he did so by coming through the womb or gate of the Virgin Mary. So maybe this is the origin of the ship symbolism. It doesn't come from the cosmos. Maybe it comes from the human body, where the ship is now the vulva or birth canal. So here's the hull of a ship. And just for illustration purposes, I brought a second one in here and flipped it upside down, and there's our almond shape, the shape of the ship of eternity, the gateway, the mandorla, the almond-shaped gate of eternity, so often used, especially in Christian symbolism. For example, we look no further than this example here of Mary beaming us energy in her ship, her almond-shaped gateway. The Egyptians called this almond-shaped Ru, which they interpreted as the gate to the field of eternity. And here we notice the rainbow motif. She's sitting on the arcing rainbow, and she's also encapsulated within or riding within the ship of eternity, the almond-shaped gateway. Well, here, Jacopo de Sion, Madonna and the Child in Glory. We see Mary as the Virgin with her star cloak on. We see Jesus on her lap, and they're both inside this ship or gateway, this radiant ship or portal through which they manifest. Here's the altar from La Mer de Dieu in El Col from the 12th century. Mary and Jesus on her lap. She's in the almond-shaped gateway filled with stars. The ancient Egyptians referred to the Ark of the Millions of Years, or the ship of eternity, as the light ship of Isis. Well, here it's Mary who now takes the place of Isis, and Jesus is taking the place of Horus, the sun god, and she is enfolded within this radiant gateway of light. She's in the portal, the ship of eternity. In my view, the most powerful example of this is the Arena Chapel in Italy, painted by the master Giotto, where we see the upturned boat and all the signs and symbols of the Christian teaching, especially the Last Judgment, present in this upturned boat. On the hull of this ship, this upturned boat, we see stars, indicating that this is a portal or gateway into the star field, the field of the blessed, as the Egyptians called it. And who do we see in this star field greeting us but Jesus holding the book of Arcanum on his lap, enfolded within the rainbow ring, and encouraging us, in fact inviting us, to make the journey, to board the ship, to set our sails for eternity. And that is the secret of Arcanum.